I'm gonna share my screen.
Okay, we're live. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Fusion Architecture. I'm Daniel from the Fusion Architecture, and today we have a great guest. He's a friend of mine. I met him through doing workshops during the pandemic, and we worked on several research papers, including things related to how to 3D architecture with AI and other interesting methods involving like GPT-2 and doing all sorts of explorations into AI. And Carlos Navarro, he's a Peruvian architect based currently in LA. He's a new media artist, integrating generative AI, CG animation, and simulation. He creates multidimensional architectural artifacts that explore digital materiality and architectural representation agencies for world building and tokenization. Navarro holds a Master's of Design Research from SCI-Arc and a Diploma of Architect from the Pontifical Catholic University of Peru. He's a project designer at OFFICEUNTITLED, focusing on computational design for active public space, and his artworks have been featured at K11 Musea, China, IIDRR Gallery in New York, and Gallery 9022 in LA. He has also served as an adjunct professor in computational design at Universidad de Los Andes in Bogota, and has lectured and published papers and run workshops on AI and computational design at DesignMorphine, Harvard Graduate School Design, Woodbury University, ACADIA, CADDRIA, DigitalFUTURES, and SHARE Bucharest Forum. And Carlos, welcome. Really excited to see your presentation today. We've known each other for quite a bit, so I know a little bit of your work, and I always find it fascinating because you have like this mist of like really nice, high quality aesthetic with a really deep and profound kind of like concept related to something natural and something digital. So welcome, Carlos, and the floor is yours.
Well, thank you, Daniel. Yeah, I'm really happy to be here with you. Yeah, it's been great working with you, throughout these last couple of years, and you'll see some of your work in here as well. So let me share my screen now. One second. Okay. Does it look good?
Yeah, looks great.
Okay, great. So the theme of my presentation is new media architecture and AI media specificity. I'm Carlos Navarro. I'm an architectural designer, a new media artist based in Los Angeles. I'm a project designer at OFFICEUNTITLED, and got my master in architectural technologies from SCI-Arc. Alongside my architectural career, recently I've been participating in a lot of computer-aided architectural design conferences, which was triggered mainly by the emergence of AI from the last couple of years. So new media architecture and AI media specificity. Clement Greenberg, in his essay, Modernist Painting, he speaks about how the essence of modernism lies, as I see it, in the use of characteristic methods of a discipline to criticize the discipline itself, not in order to subvert it, but to entrench it more firmly in its area of competence. So, for example, flatness, two-dimensionality was the only condition painting shared with no other art, and modernist painting oriented itself to flatness as it did to nothing else. So I found this as a key introduction to the work that I've been doing, experimenting with different media of AI throughout the years. And it's very pertinent when it comes to the new medium that appeared a couple of years ago, which is implicit representation of scenes or geometry, which is specifically NERF and Gaussian splatting. And I found this excerpt from the original NERF paper from Miller Hand, very pertinent, which says, in contrast to methods that directly render 3D geometry, our scene representation does not explicitly model geometry. Rather, it represents a scene appearance as a continuous 5D function that maps 3D spatial locations and 2D viewing directions to RGB color and density. So as a background, I started my generative art journey when I started teaching at Universidad de Los Andes in Bogota, Colombia. And these are a series of researches that I did in preparation for the course. And they were very oriented or based in, they reference a lot ideas from the second digital turn by Mario Carpo. And at that point, I understood that actually that second digital turn, the explicit representation of geometry was at its apex. So, for example, in the digital age, explicit representation not only visualize, but also embody complex calculations, transforming architectural design into a realm where precision and complexity are managed through computational models. That's a quote from Carpo when he refers to the new digital age that was mainly characterized by the unprecedented computational power from non-native digital tools from non-native to the AEC industry. Yeah, how, for example, subtractive and additive methods of fabrication were allowing now inexpensively bring back ornament and complexity to architecture. So at that point, I realized that, well, I was very happy where things were at that point and the level of sophistication. And when AI came in, actually, my take on it was that it was very primitive, and I had this sort of contradictory feeling, let's say, of how to embrace it. So my response to that was, as you can see in this slide, this is more of a mapping slide of the work that I've been doing through this past couple of years, which mainly focus on two main subjects, which are 3D synthesis or form generation and the generation of virtual environments. As you can see in this slide, this development occurred in basically two phases, which are related to those types of representation, which are explicit and implicit. And being explicit, everything that all the methods that encoded geometry using discrete, well-defined structures. In computer graphics, it describes shapes and geometries with points, lines, and polygons. And when we talk about implicit representation, are methods of encoding in continuous and compact forms, typically using mathematical functions rather than discrete points or explicit structures. So yeah, before 2021 and NERP and Gaussian splatting, all my exploration was based on mainly form generation through a lot of style GAN exploration, 3D GAN as well with Python training, and actual 3D datasets, and also a lot of 2.5D projection, which was 2D image lofting. And afterwards, when the implicit representation came in, I switched a lot to multi-view synthesis. And in terms of virtual environment, these three, more or less these three buckets translated into different software and media with different results. So all these are explorations in that sense. For example, how explicit representation worked well with Unity and then Blender and Cinema 4D for its high capability for rendering. But then it was really problematic to bring in the implicit representation. And only the last year, Unity and Unreal were able to actually display these new sort of geometries or scenes. So two milestones for this research, both the 3D synthesis and the creation of virtual environments, are these two papers that I did in collaboration with Daniel and George, and also Eva, good friends. And you are welcome to visit these papers. They are publicly available in Communicat. For their reference. So there are 4 topics that I want to speak about, or 4 mediums or media. The first one is data sets and latent space. And in this one, I found the approach of Gilbert Simondon very pertinent in the sense that he explored the nature and evolution of ontology of technical objects. And he argues that the technical objects should be understood not merely as tools or instruments, but as entities with their own mode of existence and evolution. So I relate this a lot to the manipulation of data sets, the collection and implementation of them, and utilizing image as instruments for new objects. The first exploration is this one called GAN's Digital Form and Matter. This was a tutorial in DigitalFUTURES that I ran. And it was a very basic exploration in basically a Stalgan, but with a very striking result. I mainly trained an architectural form, which was a data set of arches. And I chose arches because after some exploration, I realized that the contrast between solid and opaque or void and mass worked well for translating this into opacity maps or depth maps. So with a large data set that was extrapolated using some coding techniques, I was able to generate, to train this Stalgan and generate a latent space from the discrete selection of certain vector directionality or certain results. So as you can see, these 4 images were architectural shapes that I found interesting. And then the GAN that we are seeing to the right is the interpolation between them. And this is how these little artifacts were built. It was mainly a 2D and a 2.5D projection exercise that focused on frontal elevation. And then using the latent space as a continuous, let's say, like a loaf of bread that you could slice at different points in time and animate it. So I took certain distances, and I was able to make this temporal object that kept the characteristics of the generated Stalgan and of course the data set that was instrumental in its creation. Yeah, and then I explored a lot on the materiality that could come out of this instantiation process, because it is a process in which you take a mesh, you generate you take the vertices, and then you have a sort of a point cloud, and then by having those points, you are able to just instantiate in it whatever you want. And this was done in Grasshopper and Rhino years ago, but I was able to generate these interesting results using exploring on point cloud, trails, also some shaders, and of course voxels. And then then it was also an exploration about architectural representation and how you can get a multiplicity of options from the GAN in the latent space, and how this could be instrumental for architectural representation using known techniques as turntable and animations, morphing animations. This is a related exploration, more of an architectural implementation of this latent space, and it's actually literally an explicit representation. It takes the extension of the latent space and creates a structure with it. This is a prototype for a billboard, a prospect that used a data set of famous architect to generate this structure. A second exercise is material intelligence in the circular economy, the end of waste, a workshop that I ran at CADDRIA 2022 with Jia Zhao. And it primarily focused on the use of GAN, using software like Runway ML and Google Colab to identify new cradle-to-cradle material generation opportunities from the latent space. So I collected a lot of material swatches related to, they were basically recycling photos of different stages of materials at different stages of their life cycle. And I used some algorithms. I think I forgot, but just to extrapolate the data set by taking only subdividing photos into multiple features and then generating connections between them. Oh yeah, I remember it was the TSNE model, which I used to generate these sort of connections between common features from the images. And I explore different materiality, different materials, such as the case of polyurethane, from a state foam to dust. Also, we were just entering the pandemic, so I explored on face masks, just plastic polymers and how they pass from scrap to extrusions. So these new digital materials were created, and GANs were instrumental in that generation. And the level of detail that this generated, I found very related to ornament. So the exercise that we planned for this was very based on problematizing styles and historicism, and how we could use these tools to generate new architectural artifacts that were more contemporary with the new digital age. So these are some examples of these artifacts. And yeah, we chose exploring on at the beginning some historical buildings, historic architecture, but also some modern styles as well. It was basically mainly a study on materiality of and how known outlines or architectural forms were subverted by the materiality that could occur from the intersect or the juxtaposition with these architectural forms. So yeah, these are some results. Again, very intricate details, and you could see translations of the digital materials and the data set embedded into these known architectural forms. And then it explored also on a lot of let's call it digital behaviors and materiality, using or like indulging in the digital languages like trails, point clouds, volume rendering, using the power of Cinema 4D. So again, bridging the gap between what is known or common AEC industry software and whatever is outside that could inform better our practice. This is a result, a video excerpt of the scenarios that we were envisioning for this post-digital economy, circular economy. So the idea was that the extrusions or perforations or of the geometries could generate space for landscape or some new uses of for these architectural objects. Second topic, depth maps and virtual environments. And for this one, there's a lot of volumetric video studies in this, or that I found related to it. And the medium is the message book by Marshall McLuhan. I think it's very, very pertinent when they speak about how the content of any medium is always another medium. The content of writing is speech, just as the written word is the content of printing, and print is the content of telegraph. So yeah, exploring on this new digital language that I have found, like point cloud, and making it dynamic through video. It's something that I was really interested, and I think it definitely gave a different read to common architecture or standard architecture. So performative AI, neural models, and agents was a digital futures workshop in 2022 that I ran alongside Harry Moller. And it explored the generation of these architectural artifacts or landscapes in which ML agents could navigate or circulate. And the main technique for this was, again, in the realm of explicit representations, but this was something that had potential to go somewhere else, because in this exploration, I realized that I found, I explored a lot in SDF and VDBs in Houdini, and I realized that it was not only, I mean, it was a different sort of form of geometry, different to meshes and point clouds that I was able to represent using volumetric rendering. This one doesn't play. But the main pipeline for this is, again, taking video or animations, extracting the depth with different AI models such as Midas, Soy Depth, Patch, Fusion, Marigold, Depth, anything. I mean, this is a list that is an updated list, and I've been trying these models, which are becoming more and more accurate. But then, how we can use this depth to generate something else, to generate some surface or point cloud representation. Shane doesn't play. So these are some of the first studies that we did for these sort of artifacts or landscapes. derived from AI imagery. And yeah, how we were able to use ML agents to circulate on these surfaces. And more, I mean, this is just a slide showcasing the endless possibilities of generative AI. We just used like one image and then generated similar ones using Midjourney, and we were able to leverage Unity VFX to generate point cloud and animate these artifacts and juxtapose the agent's behavior to generate some complexity in a virtual environment. Yeah, this one explores a lot on like how nowadays new media art explores on data sculpture. But I agree, or I'm in agreement with the concepts like the ones proposed by Patrick Schumacher, in which he advocates for the metaverse, and saying that in the future or the near future, virtuality is going to infuse physical architecture, which I found funny because it's a retronym. But I like that term. And I like having that differentiation between physical and virtual architecture. But I think in the future, they will start to blend, and people will be able to navigate among it. Yeah, so these are some, this is excerpt of the game environment that we generated. Yeah, it was a prototype. Had the prototype look, but yeah, the idea was that agents could explore the features of the architectural elements, the architectural artifacts that were generated, and that's why all of them or most of them are dealing with geometries that are similar to ramps or stairs in order to navigate and circulate. Maybe yeah, skip through some of the students' outputs from this workshop. Yeah, some were really striking because they deal a lot with the digital materiality and instantiation that was available from the point clouds. Yeah. Very interesting visual results. Yeah. Or these ones, for example, in which the objects at the back are they were made using data sets from historic moldings. So as you can see there, those are volume. Those are BDBs brought into Unity that were generated using GAN, not just AI video with stable diffusion. They actually generated GANs trained on this historic style. This is another exercise for depth. We are the ecologist number 2. This is something that I did recently, and it was derived from a workshop that I took, diffusion architecture run by Daniel, and it was run by Saiko Ehara. And for this one, what I was trying to do is just to get a good video, just to get a good AI video, and I used Runway Gen 3, and I was just struck by the level of hyperrealism that you're able to get from this. So yeah, this is just a text to video exploration from known prompts that I already had from past exploration on weird ecologies that you're going to see later. But referring to this workshop, it was a great technique that for me it was a good introduction to Touch Designer, and sampling points using depth. So yeah, in this case, you can see how you can interpolate through images and sampling the point clouds. But I try to take this same approach a level beyond, and I was exploring recently open neural networks exchange in Unity, and I found that it was easy to generate a real-time depth estimation using MIDAS or different AI depth models. So I was able to make this seamless interconnection between Touch Designer and Unity to generate these sort of dioramas. Yeah, to generate this sort of virtual environment, more realistic ones or more rich. Yeah, as you can see here, the correspondence between the depth map and the actual AI video. The third topic is multi-view synthesis and virtual environment. And I like this one a lot because, and I related a lot to Simulation and Simulacra by Jean Baudrillard, because last year when Runway started to release their video-to-video models, it was just very striking what you were able to do, just like converting or turning a living room into something else, or a facade into something else. So I had at the moment started doing a lot of I mean, my work was very object oriented, so that's why I carried out making these sort of simulacras, which are there are copies, are big things that either had no original to begin, or that no longer have an original. So yeah, we're ecologists. Multi-view synthesis is an ongoing research that, for example, takes this Blender spiral animation, which has to be spiral so that you could take, you know, a proper synthesis from the object, and then just by taking one frame of this animation, I was able to explore using, you know, rapidly explore iterations using Midjourney in the style that I was looking for, and then using that same image prompt, I was able to inform a video-to-video generation using Runway. And these are things that you could also do in Stable Diffusion, but you know, I found that Runway was just easier to use and to rapidly explore with it. And then I tried to take this into, again, the 3D synthesis, the 3D generation. As you can see here, you have the Runway video-to-video on the right, on the left, and on the right-hand side, you have a nerve produced at NVIDIA NGP, which is this implicit representation, which at the time was could only live in there. That was a challenge. You couldn't take this anywhere else. And this one is just another example in which the object is isolated. So yeah. So explorations in taking this to a virtual environment is what comes next, and this is 3D neural synthesis, a research project that had a stage in CADDRIA and also ACADIA, and was done in collaboration with my friends George Kida and Daniel Escobar. Yeah, this one, for example, I'm sorry, this doesn't play, but it's a screenshot of a Unity virtual environment that is using a PLY nerve that is being animated in real time through Unity VFX, and is placed on a virtual environment or in a 3D skybox generated by Blockade Labs. So we were able to we were able to generate these sort of virtual environments that had both a landscape, they explored on landscaping, but also the architectural object in itself. Yeah, making use of Unity VFX. I mean, again, since this was an implicit representation, and it was just about instantiating point clouds, you could really do anything with it, and it was pretty easy using Unity VFX. But you couldn't get the nerve in there yet as an implicit representation. Maybe I can try to reshare because some things are not playing. I'll try to reshare. Well, anyway, yeah, this one is a comparison between a capture made with the Session plugin for that uses Google Tiles in Unity. So we took these spiral animations in order to generate a 3D form using Gaussian splatting. So the image on the right is the same spiral video that has an animation of a Gaussian splatting in action inside Unity, which at the time had already developed a plugin to display the implicit representation. Yeah, but the exploration started before that, and these are attempts in which you have the camera reconstruction to the left and an AI-informed building to the right, and then these are just explorations in how we can use the geometry and start to manipulate it, with the use of, in this case, VFX. And this is the video that I wanted to play before. Again, you can see the reconstruction on the left and the AI video on the right. And these are captures taken in Unity, so which means that you could actually experience this in a virtual way using VR or just cameras. And we explored this with ML agents again. And this is a rough pass, but it's a video that combines both Gaussian splatting and nerve with ML agents, and it's a interesting exploration because it combines both. It was great to being able to have these two types of representation inside the game engine environment, something that we weren't able to do before. Yeah. And finally, a current exploration that I'm carrying out is in regards to interactive media and immersive media design. Some of these exploration deal a lot with embodiment, and I found the uncanny valley definition of Masahiro Mori very pertinent, like when he refers to when human replicas look and act almost but not perfectly like human beings, it causes a response of revulsion among human observers, the uncanny valley. But this uncanny valley can be also productive. So this is what I'm trying to explore in these exercises. This is an old attempt of embodiment that Daniel and Eva and I explored some years ago. Using PIFU for generating the 3D character and GPT-2 to generate a speech for this avatar.
In this way, the physical and the virtual are not
and it was animated in
opposed.
Blender.
The user is defined by his
So I
or her
like to make
physical
this
presence
progression
within a given space, and by his or her physical presence within a given space.
Just to
It is
just
also
to convey
defined
this
by the physical
sort of
presence that he
evolution
or
of
her places within
the
that
AI
space.
models.
This is what
デジタルの姿でメタヒューマンの類似性が
which I'm
昇る。
exploring
それでも 疑いの谷、不気味さが近づく人間の形で生き生きとしている。奇妙な寒さ、不気味の谷が響く私たちの創造者が目指す親和性の頂点へ。デジタルの姿でメタヒューマンの類似性が昇る。それでも疑いの谷、不気味さが近づく人間の形で生き生きとしている。奇妙な寒さ、不気味の谷が響く私たちの創造者が目指す親和性の頂点へ。デジタルの姿で。
And this one here is it's a great one for me because it's a Gaussian splatting inside Unreal Engine. So it's the way you see it. This is the highest point of development of this technology right now. In this exercise, I'm combining the first ever capture that I did using Luma on a train, but animating this reconstruction in the same way that I was able to do it with Unity VFX, but in this case with Niagara. Yeah, and also combining a metahuman with a speech for the interaction. And then finally, some current work in progresses. I'm exploring on text to 3D navigable environments using Touch Designer and also immersive media design. Yeah, again, I took a lot of the sampling approach that I explored previously with Psycho and diffusion architecture, but I'm trying to explore more into using depth and also just more immersive virtual environments. These are some screenshots or captures of some fast workflows that I developed, just integrating depth and stream diffusion with Touch Designer, and in the case of Unity and for the navigable environment or worlds, using Unity and Touch Designer with stream diffusion or ComfyUI. These are some of the results that I've gotten at the beginning of the year. As you can see here, at that time I couldn't really make full use of stream diffusion, so it's not seamless, but again, it's a navigable environment, and you're able to reimagine views, and they are not static. You could actually 360 pan around through them. And finally, this is an exploration interactive installation that I am working in collaboration with some good friends, run by a Young Digital Group, and directed by Ruth and Wan. It's called Symbiosis, and it explores artificial intelligence as a new form of digital life. Akin to the changing condition of a jellyfish life form. This project examines how AI can establish a unique relationship and interaction with life in our physical world, especially with humans. And it's an installation that combines performance, real-time video to video, and speech. But it deals a lot with prompt engineering as well. As you can see in the top bar, we're using different types of prompting that are controlled through voice. So it proposes this very interactive or multisensory interaction between user and the actual piece. Thank you. Yeah, no real conclusion, but thank you.
Okay, awesome, Carlos. Thank you so much for that. Sorry, there's like.
I think you're muted.
Do you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you now.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Carlos. Thank you so much for that presentation and walking us through all the explorations that you've done with AI and give me 1 second. Sorry, there's like some noise next door.
Oh.
Yeah, thank you for the wonderful walk through the explorations. I think there's been like a lot of really interesting in kind of like approaching geometry, as like you said, you mentioned that it's more like than just simple vertices or points, but it's actually like kind of like these complex calculations or formulas, right? And then how do you embed some sort of emotional narrative behind them that allows like exploration, and how do you connect them now to like the viewer, the observer, or like the human that's interacting with this? So thank you for that. That was really interesting. And now let's get back a little bit, because you do have like this kind of like interesting trajectory between studying architecture in Lima, Peru, to where you are now. So maybe give us a little bit of your background and how you went from Peru and then where you are now.
Yeah, of course, happy to. Yeah, my architectural education started at Universidad Católica in Lima.
Yeah.
It was a traditional formation, but I really enjoyed it. I think at the time it had a very European influence. It was mainly based on sustainability, so it was the design approach was very pragmatic. So I started working in construction for some years, but after that I felt that I really I was more inclined to just design exploration or form exploration, and I started working at the studio of Peter Seinfeld and Maya Bayen. At the time was called Masuna Studio, and we did some great projects there. Yeah, Peter had gone to SCI-Arc. That's how I learned about it. So a lot of our projects were they were great architectural buildings and proposals, but also we did a lot of installation and more experimental projects. And after that, yeah, I applied to SCI-Arc, did the master in architectural technologies, which was great. It was at the time was run by Marcelo Spina and also Casey Ram. So it was a great program because it was very speculative, and I was able to connect a lot with my more artistic side. Delving into speculative realism and representation, and these sort of more moody renderings or representation. But also learn a lot of technical new skills for coding and Rhino and Grasshopper, which I was already good at it from Peru. But in this case, I was able to concretize or solidify these skills. Yeah.
Yeah. And in this time, so over there in SCI-Arc, you're now more exploring kind of like these technologies and how they interrelate with architecture, or was it more just like a exploration of your theme of choice? Like you're looking more of like your interests and like, okay, what can I do with this technology? How can I create like new novel forms with them, or how did you approach that?
Yeah, well, there was a program. Yeah, it wasn't like you had freedom within your within the main topic, within the main subject. Again, it was the studios were mainly based on, at the time, on object-oriented ontology and speculative realism. So it was a more philosophical approach, and that was kind of a yeah, that was kind of like a cultural shock to me, in the way that I had learned architecture before. So I had to, in a way, unlearn what I had before, in order to being able to grasp this new sort of knowledge or critical thinking. Yeah. And in terms of technology, yeah, it was based on a lot of robotic fabrication, but also working with agents and assemblies. and that's something that I really like that I started doing for my final project. Yeah, we built this impossible object made from a series of components which were like 3D printed and or milled with CNCs. But yeah, it was both a speculative exercise of representation, but also a very high-end fabrication exercise.
Cool. And then from there, I guess like where you are now, obviously your way of thinking about these technologies has evolved a bit. But did you at that point see like any kind of impact of AI into like what you're working on, or was it still kind of like a very far away thing?
Well, as I mentioned, I at the time started at SCI-Arc started working a lot with coding, and agents.
Yeah.
So you know, things started with this you know, around 2017 or 18 with Unity incorporating this into their game engine, but it was a little bit unnoticed. So I think I started playing with that as well, but it didn't really take off until I was more hands into it, I think, since 2022, since the pandemic. But yeah, I had that coding foundation that I think helped me a lot to just connect seamlessly with the development of AI, and you know, started using like training guns with Google Colab, things like that.
Yeah.
That was kind of seamless for me.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. What was the question again?
No, I was just wondering if like at that point in time where you were at the SCI-Arc experimenting with these technologies to where you are now, because right now you're a little bit more immersed in like, okay, how do you approach AI in a creative manner, right? I was wondering if at that point you had like any idea of thought like, okay, maybe this is like the route to go, or it just kind of came about.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, I guess no, and that's why this presentation was about just displaying all the AI media that I've been exploring, because I just try to take each medium as it comes and just exploit their possibilities. So yeah, I didn't really foresee you know, how things would end up. Yeah, more than anyone else, I guess. But yeah, I've been exploring a lot of the different mediums. Like I worked a lot on AR for some time before, like in the 2017, around that time. I never really engaged that much with VR until recently, just because my interest now on virtual environments and more speculative narratives. I think it's very important. Yeah, but I guess you know, these technologies they have come back sometime. I think it's important to get a sense of how they work, or what's their instrumentality or agency, so that you can use them when you need to. Yeah, that's something that usually happens with me. I use some tool for a while and then I stop using it. But then whenever I have to come back at it, it's just like riding a bicycle. It's seamless. Yeah, and that's the case for me with Unity or yeah, different software.
Yeah,
I use them on and off.
Yeah, cool. And I guess like alongside that, you also like have a lot of quotes from like specific kind of like theory texts. How has theory, or in that case of like the text that you read or been influenced by, how has that affected how you view these technologies and how you approach them in your exploration and research?
Yeah, I think yeah, they are definitely influential. Because the way that I like to approach technology, it's although it is technical, I try for it not to be, and I like trying to make the technology or approach it so that it ends up being invisible at the end. So technologies are just like the instrument to realize a larger goal. In my case, a more artistic or narrative goal. So that's why I'm very interested in just learning more about speculative narratives and different ways of storytelling, concepts about reality, like how reality has been, or perceived realities, how reality has been explored through time, and what concepts from the past are now more relevant. So that's definitely fundamental.
And then I guess like what I've seen like when working with you now, you also pair like a very like high quality aesthetic with the development of a concept, right? So how did you come up with concepts or like narratives where you get to I guess from that perspective, do you come up with the concept or narrative first and then find a way to introduce this technology within the concept? Or do you kind of like approach it where like you have experimented with a lot of these technologies and you think of ways that you can generate a concept based on the abilities of using these technologies?
Yeah, I guess it's, for me, it happens that more often is there's some post rationalization, because of knowing the capabilities of softwares or technologies, then I find avenues to make a narrative fit in it, or to use it to some purpose. And I think it works. I wish it was more the other way, so that I could have like probably better ideas, and just like think how to implement them. But it also happens, and I think it is good. But it's I think you come up with ideas when you just have more knowledge. So I think it goes both ways, and yeah.
So do you think like the exploration of just like exploring like the technologies, trying out new things with the technologies itself, that leads you to come up with ideas essentially that you can develop later on more deeply?
Yeah, but and also I guess an important part of my creative process is also just referencing media that I consume a lot, like a lot of film and film and music, and mainly that, and of course, whatever digital art that I can find online, or that there are art exhibits that I usually frequent. That's a key component of my creative process. I just try to consume as much as possible, and then see how can I relate, I don't know, like a style, or or a script from a movie, or something that I find interesting, and then I can try to adapt, or use my technologies that I have to realize it. Yeah. That's why, whenever I post, I usually try not to make it technical, but more like to convey a bit of a narrative about things that I'm exploring. Yeah.
And how much I guess like how much do you put emphasis on maybe like on human intuition and human creativity to actually develop things versus like, for example, just using, I don't know, like just writing prompts, or things of, like kind of like what we hear now a lot in like the art world. It's like, oh, like an AI image or whatever is just like a prompt. And people tend to kind of like downplay the impact that maybe human creativity in that process actually leads to developing these images, right? Or at least that's my take on it. I do see that prompt engineering in some way has to be kind of like crafted, or like you have to come up with some intuition on how to craft things. Do you find that as well? Do you kind of like see it as a like human intuition and creativity as a big impact in how these technologies develop?
Yeah, definitely. I think, for example, the weird ecologies exercises that I show, I've been able to use the same or similar prompts from model to model, in order to achieve the aesthetic that I like. from Midjourney and Stable Diffusion or DALL-E or even Runway, because I know how these prompts work, and I understand, like, that I guess the data set embedded in the models, because for example, like I was trying to make some really hyper realistic architectural video in Runway, and I just found that it wasn't as good as the results that you could get from plants or whatever landscape or type of video that you wanted, because it's just like, it's trained better in those in that sense. So yeah, I think recognizing what the AI is capable to do is important for me to know what to produce, because otherwise you're just challenging the tool, and it's I don't know. I mean, I haven't gotten good results with certain prompts, and I just stop. I just stop because I don't see progress. But I do think it's important to understand that. And I haven't explored too much in that. Like, I know that I could, to start training my own things, my data set. Like, I don't think I've ever trained a LoRa, but I do see value in this, and maybe that's a way in which yeah, there's potential for that in architecture. I think, I don't know why it's not that mainstream, but I think that's probably the future of customization, because yeah, another thought that I had before is that it's really difficult for me to create architecture, or like the level of sophistication that I appreciate in architecture with AI. Yeah, I don't know if that's a hard statement, but I don't think that you will get something as interesting as the current greatest architectural minds can do today. Of course you will get features from different styles, and of course, like, the fluid thing will work better, but it's not at that point in which you can embed these sort of narratives or encode features in the architecture. And there are some good examples of people that are trying to do that, but I don't think it's not at a point in which it's just automatic and you can do it. I think it's more about probably experimenting with different technologies and assemblage of workflows to generate or to understand how AI, and in which capacity, can aid to the construction of an architectural form. I don't think the automaticity is the goal of AI, like automate the building design. Maybe that's not the goal that we should aim for. And in that sense, for example, when I had to really had the need to create architecture with AI, and I find in some models that, yeah, what I want to do, it's not possible. But then it's actually really interesting, because then you have to create architecture in its most primal sense. So then you start just blending concepts together that have nothing to do with architecture. For example, like I don't know, like lighting or whatever, or a form, or but AI gives you that possibility to just generate something. You don't have to say, hyper realistic architectural Baroque building. By understanding its features and making use of what the model is trained on, I think that's where human creativity or knowledge or experience comes in handy to create something more interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty interesting point, because if you take a look at like prompts generation, you can talk about lighting, or you can talk about like atmospheric effects or things of that nature that they can be captured in a regular like 3D software, right? Like if you're in Rhino, actually I haven't thought about this. This is like a new thought for me right now. But if you are like working in Rhino, essentially just focus on like the explicit geometry, right? Or maybe the sort of like the hierarchy of like organization that you're trying to like develop, right? which is there is some sort of architectural intelligence in that, and within that I don't think it can be replicated also with AI, like what you mentioned at this point in time, that a sophisticated architect can develop like some sort of hierarchy and some organization pretty fast, right? AI doesn't capture that because all the models are kind of like inductive bias, so things like that don't really get captured. But the idea of being able to control kind of like these features, let's say, that we don't really think when we design, like specifically like lighting or atmospheric effects or some sort of orientation or things that might be more found in like common data sets of the internet, and then bringing them in back into like the narrative of the architecture, that opens up like a new way to mix these things, I think, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I think
and
so,
Carlos, yeah, and maybe talk a little bit about essentially what you're working on now, the idea of like virtual environments and how you're exploring these real-time technologies to essentially like I guess transfer some of these things that you're talking about, like with the features, and bringing them back into a real-time interactive immersive experience. And how do you see that workflow development?
Yeah, I think it's a very important endeavor. I'm taking on, I guess. Yeah, I guess I like pioneering in things, but yeah, I do see that just virtuality has future in the development of architecture, and you see it in nowadays with the rise of new media arts and how I guess figures start to emerge that are sort of ambiguous and are in the middle point between media arts and architecture, like Graphic Anadol, for example, and his studio. So there are these new creations that are happening in which I think that sort of a style or typology is becoming more common. It's still undefined or hard to define, but I think the important thing is that it's just getting more developed and more common. Yeah. 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 Or what was it again? I think I lost track.
No, I guess I'll follow up on that, because what's interesting about it is kind of like the interaction between kind of like the observers or like the inhabitants of the space, and now with these media technologies but are projected into like a real space. And you're now exploring kind of like these real-time approaches, right? So do you see, and we do see like a trend now where like a lot of the kind of like what's it called, like AI models, image to text models, or I think like even Luma, like one of the chief scientists of Luma said that they want to have within a year real-time video generation. So that's kind of like the trend that we're seeing overall, is that we're moving these AI technologies closer to real-time generation. Do you see that that's going to impact not only like the way that you do art, but maybe just the way we can now generate things much faster and sort of reiterate and like generate things a little bit much more explorative and interactive, and then push that out into like a art installation and things like that?
Yeah, it would definitely have an impact. I think it's starting to have it. Yeah, I think the immediateness and of these technologies are important. Yeah, I think it will happen just as the way in which I don't know, you have in our architectural software, you have embedded some sort of stable diffusion, in each one of them, because you want to visualize fast. But I think the next step will be real time, and that's why I'm very interested in this. And also just as a way to understand, as a way to work or relate to our environment, right? I mean, we are so I guess embedded into this technological advancement, like like this Internet of Things, like larger global scale computation, and I think that that will start to reflect in the way we see the world, and for that, real time is necessary. And I think the interesting thing is that I think it's achievable. That's why it's been exploring new media arts, but architecture is not paying too much attention on it yet. I think, yeah, VR has always been there just as a visualization, bucket, just as you hire your renderings. But I think probably it will start to become more mainstream and fundamental for experiencing architecture, because you're just gonna start experiencing things virtually, with the Vision Pro or the Quest 3 they are at a really high level of hyperrealism, like the depth that you perceive in them is stunning. It's like it's mind blowing actually. So I'm very excited on the future of this. Devices are going to start to become probably more wearable, and things will change. So that blend between the virtual and the physical will start to be more common to us in our daily life. And you see it with other mediums like ChatGPT, like you use it for everything now. There's AI everywhere. So I think eventually it will become more visual. So yeah, I think it's fundamental that architects start to explore in that, and start to come up with results, because that's a way that you're just gonna get ignite this into getting developed, just through example.
Yeah, and I guess just get like some final thoughts in, because you're coming up to what do you see as like your vision for this, or like how do you see yourself developing with these technologies? You do have themes that you're exploring, and there's like kind of like the themes of the agents that we've done together, and you've done your own thing. And then this kind of like real time. Where do you see yourself now exploring these technologies, and where are you taking them?
Okay. Yeah, I think, as I mentioned before, I think like the navigable environments are important for the AEC industry, and that's why I'm trying to develop that. It's one way in which you could incorporate AI in a very tangible and approachable way. So I think for me that is a challenge actually. It's like trying to incorporate AI in my daily routine and work for architecture. It's still challenging. It's not there yet. You could use it for some things, but you're not going to generate a building with it. And I don't know, maybe like 10% or like a 20% of your of the product will be the result of AI use. But that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to. I mean, ultimately, I am also an architect, and I like trying to incorporate the technology in advancing the practice. So that is why I'm invested right now in generating these sort of more urban navigable environments that can have instrumentality in the way that we design cities, we design buildings, people experience urban contexts. Yeah. That's the main goal. Aside from the just continuous 3D synthesis or 3D form generation, ongoing research that I've been developing, and now with the implicit representation, I think there's more possibilities. It's like I was surprised how well, for example, I was doing it for this presentation, like the video to video thing that I did in Luma for one of those weird ecologies. it gave like a really great nerve. It's something that I just hadn't done before. I never did it, and it's easy to do. So it's those kind of things are accessible for architects and architecture students. So I think we should embrace them more, and just get them out there to spread the knowledge. Yeah.
And actually, now that you brought up this idea of a presentation, it brought up another question, which is like, I remember when we were working on like the research project, the neural synthesis project, that we did test a whole bunch of things to see how we can 3D dimensionalize the object or like the building itself. And what ended up happening is like we realized like the best way to do it was using like the video model from Runway versus kind of like trying to do like stable diffusion kind of mapping. Which brings up the question of like whether, as we're now seeing the development of these large video models, if like video, it's now gonna have this implicit understanding of like three-dimensionality and like 3D space. And how do we take advantage of that? Like, I guess like 3D designers of architects to be able to use in our workflow or like our generation and of design ideas. Like, have you thought about that or?
Yes, it's very enticing just to see this development, because I mean the quality is just outstanding, and of course, I mean the first thoughts that I had in mind when I started to see these models, like I remember, I think it was Sora or Luma or Runway, one good model, like I don't know, like 3 months ago. And I thought it was just like a little turntable of a potato, I think. And I thought that this is enough to make it 3D, I think. And then I saw that people were starting to post, those soda videos, getting 3D, just like what is happening with Luma right now and Runway. So I think, yeah, video is great. It's probably what is gonna take us there, to the next step. Yeah, I think probably we need to leverage that, since it is a state of the art. Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Carlos, so we'll close it off here. And I always ask this question, like, what is your advice for aspiring designers or like young artists that are maybe getting into this space, working within this space?
Okay. I think well, I mean, I guess just a general advice is just if you're in a creative field, just try to get exposed to everything as much as possible. It's not just about technology, it's about culture. So getting exposed to different media and arts, as well as technology, is keeping current in that is very important. It is key. And with that, the level of development or accessibility that let's say 3D tools have now, it's a much higher level than when we started. It's like I see, for example, some media artist friends that are teaching kids in kindergarten how to model with an iPad, make these really complex geometries that I think I couldn't be able to do myself. But just I guess just being aware of what is available right now, and start to learn and become good at it, and also start to just have critical thinking. I think it's better to understand what your goals are. Like if you really like 3D model, you could find tools to help you with that. Now that PR sculpting is very advanced, I think that's a good avenue for people. But if you are a coding person, it's much easier now with ChatGPT. It's like you can solve any issue that you have, most of them currently. So yeah, I think I guess, exposure or like yeah, personal interest in learning digital media, I guess. I think it's very important for the creative field and for architecture as well. If you're an architect, architecture always grabs things from other disciplines and other fields, which are usually in a better and a higher state of development than what we have, and then we take them and we use them or adapt them, right? So I don't think we should be afraid of using foreign technology for what we want to do. Yeah, because in the end, it might be just what you need. I've done it at my work. You know, I work a lot with Grasshopper, but I'm always trying to discover new plugins or seeing what type of technology we can incorporate for that. Like, for example, I was trying to use Gaussian splitting the other day to just recreate some site analysis that I had to do. But I realized that I needed to get the like the camera path, and I just couldn't extract it because I didn't know how to get the JSON file extract from a video, from a normal video. So those kind of things is like, okay, that presented a challenge and I couldn't do it, but I know that it should be feasible, and then that's something that gives you like an added value to the work that you do for clients or different projects or new work.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much, Carlos. That was great. And I always enjoy looking at your work. It's always like very visually appealing.
Thank you. No, thank
Very
you.
interesting.
No, I appreciate being able to collaborate with you. I mean, in all these exercises through the years. I mean, because yeah, your input has been great. Yeah, I mean, it's totally instrumental, and couldn't have done it without you.
Yeah, we geek out on these things.
Yeah,
So it's always fun. It's always fun to do that.
yeah.
So yeah, thank you again, Carlos. This was great, awesome. Yeah, we'll end it here. And I'm looking forward to seeing more of your work. I know you're probably working on some stuff that you'll bring out soon. I don't know if you have any exhibitions upcoming or anything like that.
Nothing planned soon. Maybe some talks farther ahead, but yeah, I'll let you know for sure.
Yeah, definitely keep us posted, and we'll share them with the community. All right, awesome, Carlos. Thank you again, and have a good day.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Daniel. I enjoyed this. It was great. See you, Ryan.
See you.
Bye.